Oxford from the inside. The good, the bad, but always the truth.
Hello and welcome back to Oxford from the inside, the good, the bad, but always the truth. I am your host for today's episode, Junaid. I am a third year at Trinity College studying medicine. And we're here today with another episode of Quickfire Questions, where the new series we have on our podcast with one question, one answer, but over time we'll have a range of students answering a range of questions for you to listen to and hear opinions on. And today, that student is Grace. Grace, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Grace. I'm a second year English student at Merton.
Brilliant. So today's episode, as you can see from the title, is how do you deal with imposter syndrome? So before I hand it over to Grace, I'll just ask, could you first define what imposter syndrome is for you, how you would describe it, and then the floor is yours. Tell us how you deal with imposter syndrome.
Yeah, absolutely. So imposter syndrome, as I see it, is kind of a form of self-doubt, the idea that you don't deserve your place at Oxford. Maybe you go from feeling like you're in this very competitive, sort of insular process of trying to get that one spot that everyone wants. And then you get there and you realize you're with the rest of the people who also had to work very, very hard. And that kind of self-doubt manifests. And I felt that, and I know I've spoken to a lot of other people who have. And I became a peer supporter this year because I'm on the committee at my college. So our college paid for around 10 of us to be trained to be a peer supporter and be able to help other people who might be struggling with any sort of scenario at college. And obviously in that role, I've just seen how it's not like a single thing that it feels like a very individual experience, but actually it's something that just isn't talked about a lot. So I think talking about it with other people has helped me feel like it's a lot more normalized. So that's been really eye-opening this year.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. It's good to hear about the peer support program as well, touching into the sort of welfare support that's available at the student level in the university.
Yeah.
So would you say that so it is talking about it the number one way you've sort of managed to deal with it?
I think so, definitely, because I feel like an issue that I've maybe noticed, maybe it's just something particular to my experience, because obviously everyone's university experience is different, but is that often here not a lot of people talk about failure, or originally maybe when you get here you feel like you have to prove yourself a bit, like you're used to being the best in your school and now you want to seem quite outwardly confident. So I kind of fed into that culture at first, posting on my Instagram story, the 10-hour workday or whatever. But I've kind of moved past that. And obviously it is a bit of a negative side effect of Oxford. I don't want to gloss over it and say, oh, it's not really that big a deal, because it's not a nice experience to feel not like you're smart enough or whatever. Yeah. But it does make you grow as a person, and it is it makes you mature in a way that maybe you wouldn't in a less academically rigorous environment, because that is what causes it. So I feel like just the process of recognizing the emotion and then doing what you can to big yourself back up, and is a really important life lesson, not to get very cliche, but it is a one big overarching way of looking at it that I like to use, because I'm a bit cliche sometimes, I guess, too, but yeah.
So how was that for you in terms of starting at Oxford and then experiencing these feelings? How was that journey from experiencing the feelings to eventually being able to talk about it?
It was quite difficult, because obviously it's rooted in, from my experience, it was going from thinking that I needed to pretend that I was doing super well all the time and every essay was perfect. And then you kind of tentatively test the waters and moan to your friend, hey, this is kind of really hard, isn't it? An essay a week, it sometimes gets to you a bit when you have bad feedback and then have to instantly pick yourself back up again. And it's something that is never going to be a fun experience, to feel you're being pushed that hard that you don't feel like you're constantly at the top. You're needing to to think on your feet a lot. So because it's rooted in having to admit your own like insecurities, not failures, but lower points, it is a difficult thing and it requires a lot of self-confidence. But like that it gets you to do that is pretty great. So I feel like it's made me become more self-confident in that I'm not afraid to be the person that puts on the group chat afterwards, like, guys, this essay is killing me. And even if like nobody replies or other people, might say, oh, I'm fine with it. Like in our first term, maybe that would have crushed me because I would have been like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Whereas you just get to a point where you're like, I'm on my own individual journey. I would know if I'm failing. So you just have to like trust your own, like that you're doing okay.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I think like accepting it is a normal thing to feel is definitely like an important step. Would you say it's something that sort of comes back every now and then?
Yeah, absolutely. When you feel like things don't go entirely well, like even or if you hear, so something I want to touch on a bit as well is the kind of productivity culture that often manifests in such an environment of people who, are like the head girls and boys of their time and who have all these internships or anything. It's obviously amazing to see all your friends like flourishing around you and being very ambitious and putting themselves out there, but it can lead to a little bit of self-comparison in such an overachieving culture. So I feel like that's something that I've had to come to terms with, like not feel like every day like, oh, why am I not starting a new little side hustle business?
Yeah.
Why am I not like writing for a student journalism, everything? It's like you have to accept that you can't always be the best of the best here, but that's okay because you're just doing your own thing, I suppose. I know it feels like I'm repeating the same thing, but that's kind of what this is, just reasserting to yourself that you've got your own little daily routine, you've got your own things that you want to prioritize, and it doesn't have to be 10 different things that you're at the top of the university at. It can just be that you like doing cello or you're in the kayak club, but that's the one thing you do. Like, yeah, I think it's okay not to feel like you have to be like a Renaissance person just doing everything.
And I think, I mean, you touched on a good point that this sort of thoughts that you have, or looking at other people saying like, oh, look at what that person's doing, look what that person's doing, I'm not doing that. But then once you recognize, like you're saying, that this is a universal feeling, you'll sort of appreciate, I guess, that then other people will be saying the same thing. Those same people that you're looking at will probably be saying the same thing about other people, and it sort of keeps going on. So yeah, I think I think you've touched on a lot of really interesting and important things, and I think at the end it's about understanding that it is normal and it is something that we should talk about more and be okay with making transparent and focusing on and trying to improve, focusing on ourselves and the sort of individual wins and individual progress that we make in whatever we enjoy, like you were talking about, whether that's kayaking or whatever.
Yeah, that everything doesn't have to be measured by like how good it looks on a LinkedIn post or like how productive it seems. Like, is this furthering your CV or your career? Because you're kind of at that stage of university, you're at that stage of like thinking about big things and everyone around you is. But it's okay to not know what you're gonna do, what your like big path is, like that you're just plodding along and you're doing great. I feel like is what I wish someone like more people told each other. So yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Grace, for sharing your ideas and your feelings about imposter syndrome, and thank you for being on the show.
No, it was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you to our listeners and our viewers for engaging with our content as well. Make sure you follow us at Oxford from the Inside on Instagram and at Ofty Podcast on Twitter, and subscribe on our YouTube channel and check out our content wherever it's available. Thank you for listening to another episode of Quickfire Questions. Thank you again to Grace for being on the show.
Thank you.
And, from all of us here, stay safe and well, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.